Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and you know, I'm just really getting into the spirit of the holidays coming up. I know it's a little bit early, but just thought I'd be wearing my Christmas sweater and play some Christmas tunes. You guys have been asking for me to play more of my dulcimer on camera, so I thought I'd do that for you guys. Ha! I got you. Yeah, nobody's been asking for that at all, and actually I'm wearing my Christmas sweater because in Idaho right now it is starting to get dangerously cold, so this is pretty much what I've resorted to at this point. On the real though, sincerely hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're able to enjoy the weather in a climate that doesn't require you to wear Christmas sweaters in October, but yeah, you know, I'm not salty about it or anything. I mean, it's fine. Welcome to the 28th edition of Rapid Fire Reviews, the series where I talk about albums, EPs, and other kinds of projects that I didn't get a chance to talk about throughout the last month, either because there wasn't a high enough request for it, I didn't find much interest in it, or just didn't have a lot to say about it. The format of this series has changed up a little bit recently. For a while, I was just kind of doing rapid fire reviews whenever I got around to it or felt like I was ready to do it or whatever, but that format was really not working because I let so much stack up on me that it got to a point where I just could not think straight or do like any content comfortably. So I did Rapid Fire Reviews week toward the beginning of last month, and that went really well. It was a project that I was really happy I did. Got everything out of the way that I wanted to talk about, and right now, I can talk about all of the albums, EPs, and whatever else that released in September. I'm going to be talking about a couple other things outside of the month, but for the most part, this is going to be strictly September albums and EPs. I'm very excited to get this thing moving forward as a monthly thing. It's much less stressful, and I feel like I can give maybe a little bit more time into each project. But before we dig into today's edition of Rapid Fire Reviews, I would like to take a quick moment to shout out my channel sponsor, Audionamics. They are a company that makes excellent audio isolation tools, which are great for DJs, producers, or all kinds of people who have interest in audio engineering and mixing. Personally, love their software myself. I wouldn't be recommending it to you guys if I didn't personally believe in it. If what I've described sounds at all interesting to you, make sure to follow the sponsor link down in the description below. If you use that link and end up buying any of their products, I get a nice 10% kickback off of whatever you order. I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times if I have to. I don't run ads on my channel, so really this is the best way to support me at the moment. So please follow that link, check out some of their products. If none of them interest you or anything like that, I'm not going to blame you, but if any of them catch your eye and you buy it, that'll be an honestly great way to support me. Also, before I forget, I wanted to remind you guys to shoot me a follow over on my Instagram and Twitter. I'll be doing polls over there to ultimately let you guys decide the kind of content that I'm going to be reviewing. So if you don't want to see your favorite album or EP end up in rapid fire reviews rather than a full-length video, I suggest following me over there so you can give me your input. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the 28th edition of Rapid Fire Reviews. I had not originally planned to talk about this EP since it came out a few months ago. Honestly, I think Evilwave is like a pretty solid producer. I mean, I like a lot of his stuff, especially Rattlesnake off of Temanite's last album, but I really feel like if I'm going to listen to a tear out project, it's going to be from someone like Code Pandorum or Quiet or MARAUDA, but I wanted to highlight this EP in particular because it's just got these weird switch ups at the end of each song, which almost makes it a project worth listening to because it's just so strange how it'll go from these like heavy tear out tunes into like an upbeat electro type beat, and it's very strange, but I like that aspect of the EP a lot. I think it points toward some degree at least of experimentation and tear out that I haven't really seen, even if it just feels like a non-fitting thing to do. But you know, I was actually finding a degree of humor in it, so I guess that's why I would suggest it. I don't really get the hate on electro swing. I mean, to be fair, I guess I haven't dove into that many artist discographies beyond Caravan Palace, but I think they're fine, at least. I found this album to be quite an enjoyable listen, even if it feels a little underwhelming given how long we had to wait for this one after Robot Face. But I don't know, there are a lot of really like funky and groovy jams on this thing. I like the stylistic experimentation, which seems to go in more in the way of like future bass than we've seen before from Caravan Palace. So yeah, I definitely suggest this project, especially if you're into people like Grizz. I think this album is going to be quite enjoyable. This may honestly be my favorite multi-track project from Code Pandorum thus far, and maybe it's because it's an EP, so it's a much easier pill to swallow than his typically gigantic albums. But I also feel like on this EP, the more formulaic, disciple-leaning kind of sound actually works in its favor, and good lord, I love Ashes so much. Overall, just a short and sweet collection of dubstep bangers. I didn't really think this EP was fantastic or anything like that, but for me it was at least a nice reminder, or maybe a refresher, that Blanke can do a lot more than just mid-tempo, and that he can do it pretty well too. I mean, this EP definitely gave me faith that if the mid-tempo scene just completely dies, that he'll be able to pursue another genre and be able to do it, you know, well enough at least. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really find any of the new songs on this project particularly captivating, and my favorite song in this collection is probably still Housework, and I still absolutely despise You Don't Know Me. I mean, I had completely forgotten that song existed, and this project was not a good reminder for me. This is one of those EPs that I really feel like I should have reviewed, and I feel bad about once again like jipping KOAN's sound and not giving them a full video, because I feel like at least Polychrome probably deserved it. Given I would probably say that I actually like Intervals Above as a collection of work more than Polychrome. I think it's a little bit more consistent and maybe a little bit more inventive too. Really, my main thing about this EP, and some people might get upset at me for saying this, I think it's a lot like The Imperative by Vorso, and obviously Vorso gets a lot of his influence from KOAN's sound, that much is very clear, but just, I don't know, the sonic direction of this EP, especially when I was and still am so obsessed with that project, it didn't come as like super refreshing to me. Even Vorso himself is kind of veering in a different direction in a lot of his recent music, so to see KOAN's sound kind of do a project that's so sonically similar to The Imperative was a little bit odd for me, but obviously I think their sound design is incredible. They do an excellent job of atmosphere building, and this project was really enjoyable, just not like my favorite. This is just a really solid melodic dubstep EP, and this is going to be more of a comment on Ophelia in general than, you know, Last Heroes, but I love that Seven Lions is giving a platform to all of these different melodic dubstep talents. I mean, I myself only recently found out about Last Heroes, so the fact that I'm even talking about them right now is, I'd say, in large part thanks to Seven Lions. But yeah, Seven Lions has certainly cut out his own niche. I love that he's kind of taking advantage of the fact that melodic bass music is so big right now and giving some exposure to these smaller talents, even if they're not like anything all that original. He's still giving some exposure to some really good, you know, melodic bass music. And hey, if that sounds good to you, I would definitely recommend checking out this EP. This one is definitely not my favorite project we've gotten from Mr. Bill as of recent. I can appreciate his work in production and sound design on this project as usual, but, you know, much like Virtual Riot's latest EP, it's like I can appreciate the work that went into it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily enjoy the more formulaic approach. This is just a little opinion that I'm going to throw in, but I think that if you're a talented producer such as Mr. Bill or Virtual Riot, your primary motive when you pursue a trendier sound on an EP or an album should be to take that genre and move it forward, to take the bar and set it higher. If your goal isn't to do that, which I really don't feel like it was Mr. Bill's intention to do that on this EP, I really really don't think you should do it at all. I like this remix album a lot. In fact, I would probably even go as far as to say that I love this remix album. Completely not what I expected. I didn't absolutely adore the original album. I mean, I thought it was fine, but this isn't just like a remix album in the way that a lot of artists do remix albums, which seems to be just having a bunch of different people, different popular producers hopping on and remixing one track. This is like a complete reimagination of the original album to a point where some of these songs that are being remixed are barely recognizable at all from their originals. A lot of really great new originals from SOPHIE, pursuing that very like rubbery and intricately textured sound that SOPHIE kind of had on Product. A lot more clubby and dancey than the original album, which I can always get down with. In fact, I'd pretty much just call this one a new album entirely, because it really is. But I would definitely suggest checking this one out. This is one of the albums that I put up on the polls a couple different times, and it didn't win either of them, so it's getting filed into rapid fire reviews. But I think this is a really great project generally. My favorite work we've gotten from Iglooghost since Neo Wax Bloom, and it's really, in my opinion, better than anything we've gotten from Kai, Whiston, or BABii. These three have a ton of chemistry together, though, to a point where I'd almost rather them only release music together moving forward. And this album's just got a ton of bangers, especially in the last leg of the project. Just incredible. Aero Chord is back. He back, baby. 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 Yeah, I'd just say this EP was a really nice return to form. Tribe 303 is absolutely insane. One of the best tunes I've heard come from Aero Chord in a long time. But, just a really solid EP overall. Yeah, I enjoy it more and more every time I listen to it, if that tells you anything. I like that some of his styles on this are kind of callbacks, and others he pursues, a more melodic direction, and yeah, it works nicely. For sure, one of the best pop albums I've heard this year. I'm not sure what I entirely expected going into it. I mean, I had heard Vroom Vroom from Charli XCX, and it's like I enjoyed, her kind of going down that weird, experimental route with the crazy off-the-wall productions, but this album is just like unbelievable. It kind of starts out as this like throwback, kind of a tribute to, the 90s and like the boy bands type sounds, and then as it progresses it kind of gets into more like futuristic, yeah, I mean, the latter half of this album could be like the future of music. It's just absolutely insane. Very like crisp production. Just a really, really great pop album, and I could not recommend it more. I don't really know what to say about this EP. I didn't love any of the songs on it to that much of a degree. Mainly, I think I was more interested in the more melodic collabs, like the Trivecta one, the Seven Lions one, just because it's interesting to hear their styles blended in with Excision and Wooli, but beyond that, there's really not much to take away from this project. This EP is pretty much what I've come to expect from Holly. He's got a very unique production approach that I most of the time tend to appreciate. Although on this EP, really the big highlight for me was the electro tune, Dogs with the Bloody Beetroots. Absolutely insane. Highly recommend it. I'll be honest, I had not listened to all that much Riot 10 up until the release of this album, and I kind of went into it with the expectation of like, how bad could it be? And I'm really genuinely sorry I asked that question, because beyond this album serving pretty much no purpose in the album format, it's just chocked full of just really god-awful bass music. Really bad mixing, just unoriginal ideas. I think you get the picture. Stay away from this album if you can. Yeah, I mean, even though I didn't really love either of the singles from Flesh and Blood, I think it rounded out as a pretty nice EP overall. Of course, you've got Eptic kind of doing his own thing on a couple different tracks on this EP, notably Power and Undefeated, which honestly to me kind of sounds like a Power VIP. because they're so similar, but it is nice to see Eptic kind of firing in a number of different directions on this EP. A little bit of Flux Pavilion melodic dubstep, a little Moombaton, a little bit of mid-tempo on Violence, and I think he does each genre particularly well, infusing his own, signature production elements. I don't think this project is absolutely fantastic, but it's really well rounded at the least. I wouldn't say I was that thrilled with this EP overall. I don't think it's Tisoki's best work, but I would definitely suggest checking out the title track as well as Relate. He has a very unique approach to like combining bass music with this kind of like emo trap kind of sound, and it's just really enjoyable. I think very unique in the scene right now. Something we could use more of, certainly. And I hope to see it a little bit more. For all my bass heads, I would definitely suggest checking out this EP in particular. Too Kind has been one of my favorite up-and-comers to watch throughout the last year or so. And this EP, even though a lot of the ideas might not necessarily be the most original, I think Too Kind has a pretty, unique approach to production and the way he structures things. If don't check out this EP if you're looking for like the most crazy off the wall thing you've ever heard, but I think a lot of you bass heads might be intrigued at the very least from this project, because that's how I felt about it. This is really the first multi-track project I've heard from MARAUDA, a mastodon that has really made me understand the hype behind him. Not to say I'm going to be jamming on this project any day or anything like that, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be following him more closely at this point, and Home is just such an insanely cool tune. Definitely my favorite from the project. I feel pretty much the same about this album as I did about AC Slater's last album, where it's just like any of these songs individually I could take and listen to and appreciate, especially in the realms of production. I think AC Slater is very talented, but in an album context, I just don't think it works all that well. It gets very bland and boring very quickly, and yeah, I'm just not down with it. I thought AC Slater was going to be the savior of bass house albums, and it hasn't happened. Once again, this is a project that I would highly suggest to anyone who's into acts like Hybrid, who just blend lots of different genres together in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. A lot of orchestral influence on this project, and then just crazy, stylistic fusions you would not expect. There's one track that's centered around pirate music, which is just crazy, and it's like a house tune, so it's just very strange and cool and wonderful. And yeah, even though a lot of these ideas, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, whatever, but the stylistic experimentation at the least is going to be enough to catch your ear. And the mix downs are just really nice and clean too. Just a really solid project. I was really looking forward to this album. Of course, I was really into Estiva maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and this album kind of took a direction that I didn't expect, and maybe for the better, going more in the line of, classic, progressive, electro, techno type dance music. I really appreciate the production. I think since the last time I had really been into this artist, his production has improved tenfold. However, a lot of these songs feel very indistinguishable from one another. I would have liked to see a lot more diversity on this project. Maybe some more vocals would have helped, things like that. And then it also doesn't help that a lot of the songs that I might consider bangers on this album are kind of saved toward the last few tracks. It's one that I would probably recommend, but not really for a wide range of listeners. Here's another album that I can really appreciate for the production. Obviously, a lot of detail went into it, but then in terms of ideas, and especially in the vocal performances, I feel like this album just falls really flat, and I feel like a lot of it weighs on the vocal performances because that's, so much a percentage of what is being offered here, and it just, I don't know, even some of these performances I would say are almost atrocious. However, really vibing with 143, one of my favorite tunes I'd say that I've heard from Hermitude thus far. Kind of reminds me of some of Disclosure's Settle era stuff, and I guess while that makes it not quite as original as, you know, some of Hermitude's other work, it's just such like a groovy jam. Definitely suggest it. This is a really solid compilation album. I mean, it's not like I'm just absolutely creaming over every single song on this project or anything like that, but I think Mousetrap and Insomniac did a really great job of kind of working together to each provide the project with artists that would be able to, you know, fit well together. Each side of this compilation is almost indistinguishable from the other, which is a good thing. Don't take that in the wrong light. Overall, just a great dance compilation. Can't really say much more. Gotta say, I can get down with the fact that Mr. Carmack chose to go in some new directions on this EP, kind of get out of his comfort zone and do some interesting things, and I think in a lot of places he adds some flair, some of his uniqueness to these different genres. You know, I'll just use dubstep as an example that you wouldn't really expect, but a lot of the times I feel like it just kind of falls flat. Like I would never want to hear some of these songs in like a bass music set. I mean, it's fine. I don't think this EP is absolutely fantastic. I think it could have been better if it was balanced out by more collaborators who could have elevated the production levels of, you know, these genres that he tries to kind of expand his sound into. And lastly is this new LP from Tin Liquor, and similarly with Metamorphoses, I can't really recommend this for a very wide audience of listeners. I feel like it has a very specific target demographic, which is like Mousetrap fans and like Anjuna Deep fans. Just good old progressive house. Like I said, not everybody's going to enjoy this, especially in the modern dance music sphere. I feel like this music isn't all that big, but this is something I feel like I could just turn on and relax to and just kind of chill out with for, you know, its entire running length. Very relaxing, not super drop centric. It's just a really nice little, you know, progressive house album. And that's going to do it for this edition of Rapid Fire Reviews. As always, I have the links, the Spotify links to be specific, for the albums and EPs and compilations that I talked about down in the description below if you want to check them out for yourselves. One more quick shout out to Audionamics. Make sure to hit that sponsor link down in the description below. If you want to support me, check out their products, have some good times, get some cool software, you know how it is. If you have any comments or opinions on any of the albums or EPs that I talked about, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Let me know what you want to see next. You know, you can always give me suggestions in the comments. You guys do anyway, but feel free to. If this is your first time visiting the channel and you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.